everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of News for Normies. I am Millennial Meditations, your host, and I'm going to try to bring you this week's worth of news in a relatively short time frame. This week seems like it was trying to drink water from a fire hose, so stick with me to the end. Got a lot of clips, got a lot of stuff to talk about, and some controversies here and there. So if you enjoy this content, follow me on the different social medias. I will have those linked below. I always do this wrong. Linked below, somewhere down there. Go follow me, especially on Rumble, because YouTube, that's going to come up later on. Also, follow me on Twitch. I'm trying to do some more gaming live streams. All my social media handles are down there as well. And most importantly, all my references for these videos are linked below as well, so you can see that I am not just coming up with stuff out of thin air. So, with that being said, let's get on to the news. So, the memorial service for Charlie Kirk was last Sunday, and to my knowledge, it went smoothly as far as protesters showing up. The memorial service itself was jam-packed. I think the stadium had like 60,000 people inside and estimates of 100,000 outside. Plus, I think I heard like over 100 million people watched it on live stream too. So to say anything about Charlie Kirk not being impactful would be an outright lie. He had an amazing reach and impacted a lot more people than we actually thought. Many people spoke at the memorial, including President Trump, RFK Jr., Charlie's wife Erica, and Tucker Carlson, who stirred up some controversy by saying the following.
And it actually reminds me of my favorite story ever. So it's about 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem, and Jesus shows up and he starts talking about the people in power, and he starts doing the worst thing that you can do, which is telling the truth about people, and they hate it, and they just go bonkers. They hate it. And they become obsessed with making him stop. This guy's got to stop talking. We've got to shut this guy up. And I can just sort of picture the scene in a lamplit room with a bunch of guys sitting around eating hummus, thinking about what do we do about this guy telling the truth about us? We must make him stop talking. And there's always one guy with the bright idea, and I can just hear him say, I've got an idea, why don't we just kill him? That'll shut him up. That'll fix the problem.
Now, some people are claiming that Tucker is spreading this old blood libel myth about the Jews, but from my perspective, as somebody who's grown up in church and has a bachelor's degree in ministry, he was simply comparing what happened to Charlie to what happened to Jesus. This is in no way that saying Charlie was Jesus, as Charlie was a man like the rest of us. He was flawed. He's a sinner, and always proclaim that. But both Charlie and Jesus were very against the political systems of their day, and both were gruesomely murdered for going against the machine. If you don't believe me, just pick up a Bible and read the first 4 books of the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Particularly the one story, and I don't remember right off the top of my head, of Jesus flipping tables and chasing people with a bullwhip at the temple because there were money changers there selling sacrifices instead of it being, an animal from your own flock or herd, which is what was meant to be used at that time. So that was, by Jesus doing that, he was showing that they completely corrupted the system that was in place and needed an overhaul. And Charlie was kind of doing the same thing. Now, he wasn't ever physically violent with people, but he was battling their ideas. And both Jesus and Charlie were gruesomely murdered for doing so. This is also in no way to blame the Jews for anything, despite what some idiots on the internet want to claim. Looking at you, Candace Owens. By the way, she had some new wacky-ass conspiracy theory about bees and communism. I didn't include this because I don't really want to give her any more airtime than she already has. Just know that Candace is completely batshit crazy, and you should not be watching her at all. Now, on the left, libtards had to open their mouths too, showing just how evil and idiotic they are.
It is important for us to hold a mirror. There are so many people that are pretending the words that Charlie said don't exist. The way he made black women feel when he said we didn't have brain processing power to thought processing power to get ourselves into college and to be taken seriously as professionals, or as a black person, if you were a pilot and he walked on that plane, he'd be scared. These are actual words that this man has said, and I can't even begin. We will be here all day if I told you all of the things he has said about Muslims and immigrants and the trans community. He had hate for so many people, and he mocked the death of George Floyd. This is not somebody I am going to sit back and say had a great legacy of bringing people together, because he did the opposite. And it is important, while we mourn his death and condemn his assassination and feel empathy for his kids and wife, we are not here to whitewash what he did while he was alive.
And
so yeah, there you go. In a time where people claim they want to have the tensions lowered, you still have liberals going out there and doing exactly what Ilhan Omar just did. So do not believe these people when they say they want to lower tensions. All they want you to do is to be a defenseless sheep and just accept the fate that they have for you. So, moving on, I have to eat crow a little bit here and talk about Disney bringing Jimmy Kimmel's show back after a left-wing terrorist shot up an ABC affiliate station in Sacramento. More on that in a minute. Also, Sinclair, the owner of many ABC affiliate stations, canceled their memorial program to Charlie Kirk over terroristic threats from the left. But remember, it's the right that does all the violence. This again shows you that the left is the most violent political group in America, but somehow allows them to play victim simultaneously in this situation, even though Kimmel was pulled for his remarks about Charlie Kirk. And don't believe for a second that Jimmy Kimmel is a victim. He gets paid like millions of dollars a year to do his shitty show and costs the company money by doing it. That's why Colbert got the axe, because his contract was coming up. They're losing money. And they're like, yeah, we don't want to redo this because you're costing us money. So Jimmy Kimmel is in no way a victim, and don't believe your crazy liberal aunt when she says that. Also, don't forget that Gina Carano was fired from The Mandalorian for posting a picture of a Nazi officer in World War II shooting someone, and her caption on it basically said to not other people because it creates division. That's all she said. It wasn't pointing the finger at one group or another, but she was still fired from that. And she won her lawsuit, by the way, but still, it took her years to win her court case and have a possibility of coming back to the series, even though it was a benign post saying, hey, just talk to people. So yeah, don't believe the left when they claim they're victims. They're not. And again, as I said 2 weeks ago, we have to fight this culture war with our dollars. Give Disney the Bud Light treatment and they'll start to straighten out. Hopefully. We'll see. And that includes ESPN, which is owned by Disney, Hulu, which is owned by Disney, and you can look up all the different things that Disney owns and quit giving them your money. Especially you Christians, quit going to Disney World all the time, because the company hates you. Disney hates you, and you keep giving them money. Stop it. All right, moving on. So about that ABC affiliate station, the suspect in the ABC station shooting had a note on his refrigerator stating, quote, "For hiding Epstein and ignoring red flags, do not support Patel, Bongino, and AG Pam Bondi. They're next. CK from above," end quote. Obviously, the last part, CK from above, is talking about Charlie Kirk. So this guy wanted violence against people in the Trump administration, but took it out on an ABC affiliate station. As I've said before, left-wing logic is meant to make no sense. Also, the timing of the ABC shooting was right after Kimmel's show was pulled, so the note about Epstein seems like me a little bit of a distraction. But again, remember, it's the right that does all the left-wing violence in America. My God. I really do not have a good outlook for the future of the country. Okay, moving on. This kind of went under the radar, and I don't know how because it's kind of a big deal. But a bomb threat was called into RFK Jr.'s home in Washington D.C. on September 19th, 2025. Thankfully, no bombs were found after police swept the residence and the property. This doesn't surprise me, however, with the violent nature of those who disagree with Trump, Kennedy, or anyone else in the administration, as we've seen. And it also doesn't surprise me that those who essentially worship Big Pharma would go after the guy who's the biggest heretic of their god. If you think I'm crazy, please let me know in the comments below. But that's the way that I see it. Especially when we get into the topic of all the trans stuff. But anyway, moving on. More left-wing violence. A gunman opened fire at a wedding reception in New Hampshire, killing one guest at the wedding. The shooter apparently yelled "Free Palestine" before committing this terrorist attack. But I'm sure if Jimmy Kimmel was asked, he'd probably say this was a MAGA person too. And if you don't believe me, here down below, and I just hit my desk, here's an article from The Atlantic, which is not a right-wing publication, by the way, specifically stating that left-wing terrorism is on the rise. That's linked below. You can go read it. But yeah, so they came out and said left-wing terrorism is on the rise. And it's from people like myself who see that. You're like, no shit, Sherlock. We've been saying that for years. And that is a perfect segue into my next story. 3 detainees were shot at an ICE detention facility in Dallas, Texas, early Wednesday morning. And sadly, 1 person died and 2 were seriously wounded. Let me repeat, 2 people in custody at the ICE facility were shot, not 2 ICE agents. Meaning 2 illegal aliens were shot by a left-wing crazy person while they were probably trying to target ICE agents. Congratulations, you did nothing. Now, the shooter was a white male on a rooftop of a nearby building and cowardly shot himself as police approached to either arrest him or eliminate the threat. The identity of the shooter was released, but I'm not going to give him the attention that he wants, as this is likely a copycat from Charlie Kirk's assassin. And I'll get into that in a second. The official motive has not been released, but an unfired bullet found on the scene had anti-ICE written on the side of the shell casing, so if I had to guess, the official motive, it's another left-wing extremist who hates Trump and thinks ICE is the modern-day Gestapo. That's why I said I don't want to give him any attention, because it's probably a copycat. And speaking of ICE, California passed a bill that would make it illegal for federal law enforcement agents, specifically ICE, to wear masks while doing their job.
I'll be signing a bill, the first in the nation, saying enough. ICE, unmask. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of?
And here's what the acting U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California, Bill Asaley, said. The state of California has no jurisdiction of the federal government. If Newsom wants to regulate our agents, he must go through Congress. I've directed our federal agencies that the law signed today has no effect on our operations. Our agents will continue to protect their identities. When can we expect California to pass a law banning Antifa members from wearing masks while committing state and federal crimes? I'll wait.
And to answer this demon rat who leads California, Gavin Newsom, the masks for ICE agents are to protect their identities because people on the left want to dox ICE agents and put their families in danger, even though your policies, Democrats, have allowed illegal aliens to flood into the country and cause chaos on our families. However, despite this, President Trump has ordered federal agents to ignore this, to which I kind of agree. On one hand, I don't like to see police, mask up and not reveal their identities. But at the same time, when illegal immigration has been such a problem for years, something has to be done. And this is, it's different from your normal, like, local police department. If you get pulled over for speeding, like, that's one thing. But if you're here illegally, like, we don't know if you're here causing chaos, smuggling drugs, smuggling people. So at the end of the day, I agree with the president's decision here. And I hate to sound like a broken record, but the Democrat Party does not give a shit about you and will always put foreigners first. Despite what they want to get on their soapbox and say, oh, we're fighting for the working man and we're getting drug prices lower and whatever else they want to spew, they will never put you first. So just keep that in mind next time you go to the polls. It's also funny that now Gavin Newsom is opposed to masks when it doesn't benefit him, but he was all for it 5 years ago when it did benefit him. Kind of funny how that works. All right. This just happened like a day ago, too. The very popular rap hip-hop star Ice Cube, his tour bus caught on fire in Portland, Oregon. Now, people quickly speculated on the internet that somebody intentionally set the bus on fire because of the word ice on the side. But if you look at that video again, it clearly looks like flames came up from the wheel well right by the door. I mean, it clearly looks burnt right up the side of the door coming up from the wheel. So maybe it was an issue with the brakes or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, people quickly claimed that this was an Antifa firebombing of ice or whatever. So again, it's important to not just fall into the left-right thing, although I lean more right in my politics, but a lot of people are claiming this. So as of right now, it does not appear that is the case. We will see, I suppose. But with how crazy these people are, it would not surprise me if this was actually the case. And I'm actually waiting for a viral clip to come out from a Starbucks when a barista asks if the they-them person wants their overpriced, shitty coffee hot or iced, and they have a complete meltdown. Oh my God, he said ice! So, waiting for that to happen. And I will quickly add that to one of my videos if that does. Last bit on immigration. A superintendent from Des Moines, Iowa was arrested by ICE. And this man's name is Ian Andre Roberts, and he was living in the United States illegally and apparently led police on a car chase as they attempted to detain him. Roberts apparently abandoned his vehicle, which contained $3,000 in cash, a fixed-blade knife, and a Glock 19 pistol. According to Fox News, Roberts entered the country last in 1999 through New York on a student visa, and I guess got an employment visa or employment authorization card, but that expired in 2020. How he obtained the gun is not yet clear at this time, but a quick side note here, gun laws didn't prevent him from getting it. So, there you go. A bunch of hypocrisy all in one story. Now, moving on, let me get a sip of water. This one gained a lot of attention, and the backlash, if you will, is absolutely mind-blowing. President Trump and RFK Jr. Recently stated that pregnant women who take Tylenol have an increased risk of their baby having autism.
Effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol during pregnancy, can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever, that you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that. It's a small number of cases, I think. But if you can't tough it out, if you can't do it, that's what you're going to have to do. You'll take a Tylenol, but it'll be very sparingly.
Now, I definitely think Trump should have practiced the pronunciation of acetaminophen before this press conference, but the statement still remains. This is in no way saying that taking Tylenol while pregnant is a crime. It is simply informing the public of a health risk. Just like in the past, doctors and health departments have told pregnant women you shouldn't smoke cigarettes while you're pregnant, or vape, or drink alcohol, because that can lead to health risks for the baby. Very same thing. That's all it is. And what's interesting is Tylenol actually posted this back in 2017 when this wasn't even an issue. So, weird. Find that interesting. But because the left are so fucking insane, pregnant women are posting videos to social media of them taking Tylenol while pregnant in defiance of Trump.
28 weeks pregnant. You know what I'm going to take? Some Tylenol, acetaminophen. It's going to work like a charm, and my baby won't have autism.
About to take Tylenol for my headache while pregnant because I don't take my medical advice from a man who doesn't have a degree in science, healthcare, or medicine, and who had a parasitic brain infection and was addicted to heroin for 14 years. Yeah, I'll trust my doctors who have their degree.
Wake in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream from the top of my lungs, what's going on?
And it is mind-boggling to me how the same people who said, trust the science, bro, 5 years ago and fell in lockstep with the government over COVID are now against this. And in some ways, vice versa. And again, I don't know how we go forward as a society like this. I truly don't. It just blows my mind. And speaking of President Trump, he spoke before the United Nations recently in New York, telling them to their faces that Europe must get control of their immigration issues and energy policies.
States, but I worry about Europe. I love Europe. I love the people of Europe. And I hate to see it being devastated by energy and immigration. This double-tailed monster destroys everything in its wake, and they cannot let that happen any longer. You're doing it because you want to be nice. You want to be politically correct, and you're destroying your heritage. They must take control strongly and immediately of the unmitigated immigration disaster and the fake energy catastrophe before it's too late. The carbon footprint is a hoax made up by people with evil intentions, and they're heading down a path of total destruction. You know, the carbon footprint was a big, big thing a few years ago. I remember hearing about the carbon footprint, and then President Obama would get into Air Force One, a massive Boeing 747, and not a new one, an old one with old engines that spew everything into the atmosphere. He'd talk about the carbon footprint, we must do so. Then he'd get in and he'd fly from Washington to Hawaii to play a round of golf. and then they get.
So I like to see President Trump just laying it out there for him. Y'all have ruined your countries, and you need to get control of it. And like I showed last week, there was a major protest in the UK over immigration policies. So again, maybe we're seeing a global, or at least in the Western world, a rise of people getting fed up with how their governments do things. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But before this speech, something strange happened to the escalator.
President Trump. Schumer.
Now, one, Secret Service definitely should have been over him immediately because, well, we've seen recently what the left does to those that they hate. And two, it's been reported that employees within that building had joked about turning off the escalator as soon as Trump got on it. So I've heard that there's going to be an investigation into that. What exactly they're going to find or charge people with, I'm not sure, but I mean, I definitely think somebody should get a slap on the wrist at least. But anyway, moving on. When Trump started to speak at the UN meeting there, the teleprompter malfunctioned.
Very much appreciated. And I don't mind making this speech without a teleprompter because the teleprompter is not working. I feel very happy to be up here with you nevertheless, and that way you speak more from the heart. I can only say that whoever's operating this teleprompter is in big trouble.
So if one of those mishaps happened, I would say it's a coincidence. You know, escalators are, mechanical things. Mechanical things break down. Shit happens. But the escalator malfunctioning and a teleprompter going out, I don't see those as coincidences. I think people were intentionally trying to mess with President Trump. But at the end of the day, I think we, the United States, should leave the UN as they suckle the tit of the United States and our military power while gloating about their free healthcare and free education. If you want defense, build it yourself. And y'all have free healthcare because we give you free unhealthcare. And by the way, I heard, and I didn't look into this a whole lot, that Russia is kind of poking the bear a little bit. NATO planes were scrambled over European airspace because of Russian planes, and Air Force planes were scrambled over Alaska because of Russian planes entering U.S. airspace. We will see what happens there, I suppose, but keep your eyes on that too, because Russia may be at a desperate last stand, if you will, in this whole Ukraine war. But we'll see. And that's a good segue into this next story that I didn't even include. Former FBI Director James Comey was recently indicted on federal charges in Virginia. This came within just a few days of the statute of limitations expiring because he last testified before Congress on September 30th, 2020, that had a 5-year statute of limitations. So the charges are apparently over perjury during a congressional testimony from 2020 over the Russia collusion hoax. I'm really, really glad to hear this, and I hope other arrests are made at this level too, because these people are traitors to this nation and should be reminded of such. And speaking of being a traitor to this nation, here with this picture here, you can see that Google has finally admitted to censorship on YouTube under the Biden administration, even though certain content didn't violate any laws or company policies. YouTube has promised to reinstate certain channels that were banned and, quote, will embrace free speech, end quote, even though they caved to pressure under the Biden administration. So I'm calling a little bit of bullshit on that one. And also don't forget the Steven Crowder rule, where YouTube intentionally censored Louder with Crowder and similar content creators for questionable content. And if you think this won't happen again, it absolutely will. And this is why you should follow me on Rumble, because they don't do that. Also, I heard that Alex Jones tried to make a new channel on YouTube and it gained a ton of subscribers seemingly overnight, but then they banned it real quick because they're like, nah. So again, it's kind of I wouldn't even call it a half-hearted measure at trying to get in the good graces of people like myself. It kind of seemed like a quarter measure, if anything. But yeah, go follow me on Rumble, because YouTube absolutely will do this again. And finally, because we always have to talk about Israel, 5 Americans were killed in South Lebanon by the IDF as they were targeting individuals belonging to Hamas. When asked for comment, Netanyahu said, whoopsie daisy. Not really, that's just me being sarcastic, but they basically gave an apology. It was like, we're sorry. So at this point, I think we should also stop all financial aid and weapons to Israel, because this isn't the first time that something like this has happened. This really reminds me of the USS Liberty, where Israeli forces attacked the USS Liberty intentionally, even after being told, no, this is an American ship, don't fire. They did anyway, and then essentially gloated about it. And then President LBJ just swept it under the rug. So, yeah. Don't really like the government of Israel right now. And if you think the criticism of the government of Israel is anti-Semitic, then you are hysterical. I'm blaming the government of Israel, not the Jews. Making a clear distinction here. It is the government I do not like of Israel. So, that's all I got this week. Short, sweet, to the point. And I will bring you all some new stuff next week. Hopefully new stuff next week. Yeah, so follow me on the socials, especially Rumble. Share this with your normie friends, because that's who I'm trying to get this across to. And take care of yourselves. I'll see y'all next week. Thank you.
Thank you.